April 12th, 1981, Northern California. The town of Keddie. Population, maybe 60 on a good day. A forgotten patch of cabins tucked into the Sierra Nevadas. Inside cabin 28, investigators find 3 bodies. Sue Sharp, her teenage son John, and his friend, Dana Wingate, all brutally murdered, stabbed, bludgeoned, their throats cut. Sue's daughter Tina is missing.
Blood on the walls, tape on the floor. 2 knives and a hammer used. 1 knife bent in half from the force. No sign of forced entry. Whoever came that night, they were either let in or didn't need to ask.
It's the kind of scene that doesn't feel real, like someone staged a nightmare and forgot to wake up. And here's what makes it worse. No arrests, no convictions. 4 decades later, still no definitive answers. Just theories, whispers, and a cabin that seems to hold its breath for 23 years until they finally tore it down.
So basically, the cabin in the woods, but without the jokes, the monsters, or satisfying ending.
Right. Just real people, real terror, and an ending that never came.
Tonight, we're diving into that story and how it echoes through The Strangers, Bryan Bertino's 2008 film about random violence that feels maybe not so random.
Because sometimes horror movies aren't inspired by ghosts or demons. Sometimes they're inspired by what people actually do to each other when no one's watching.
For anyone just listening in, Mike is currently wearing the stranger's mask, so that's why it sounds crazy. Before we start, our usual note. This episode contains discussions of real-world violence, unsolved murder, and trauma involving minors. Please take care while listening. We probably shouldn't answer that.
Yeah, we probably will anyway. My cat will.
I just heard the cat. I always think about like all these true crimes and like the poor animals that were left behind. But anyway.
I gotta get this off.
Does that feel better?
Yes.
Okay. Before we dive in, hi and welcome. I'm Amanda Caguada, and if you're new here, we're really glad you found us. I'm Amanda, writer and professional overthinker. I'm the one who usually connects the dots that probably aren't even dots. Somehow they usually lead somewhere.
Yeah, fair. I'm Mike, resident horror obsessive, and the guy who thinks every unsolved murder deserves a screenplay. I want to say dissolves, right? Like dissolves in an acid bath.
You really do. You're always sending me something saying, we got to write this. We've known each other for 24 years, which is probably why our creative shorthand borders on telepathy. We've written 6 features together, plus more ideas and outlines than any 2 people should admit to.
So whether you've been here from the start or you just stumbled in, get comfortable. This is a wild one. And for those of you who've been around for a while, welcome back to the Fear Archive, where we're pulling those dusty files from the shelves of history, and we're going to ask you the question no one truly wants answered. What if the boogeyman was just your neighbor?
Or your Airbnb host.
Ooh.
Or your ex. Aye.
Or in tonight's case, 3 strangers who decided a locked door was just a suggestion.
Tonight's file, the Keddie Cabin murders, a story that sounds made up until you realize every detail actually happened.
It's kind of our specialty to pull this shit out of the ether, but this is one of those stories that I feel like does not get enough attention. This is one of those really, really scary stories that just sort of hides from the general public, but maybe that's for the better.
Yeah. And before we get too deep, I like to just point out that every time we do an episode set in the forest, you start talking slower and kind of looking over your shoulder, like hearing something.
You mean I'm not? It's called dramatic tension, Amanda.
Or early onset paranoia.
Facts. Early onset. Joke's on you. I've got full-blown paranoia. And this case never helped. This is one of those ones that gives me the straight-up quote-unquote heebie-jeebies. But it really keeps me up at night sometimes. So picture this. April 1981. A mother, 2 teenagers, and a missing child. Found inside a tiny cabin in the mountains of Northern California. No forced entry, no clear motive, no closure.
It's one of those crimes where everything kind of feels off. Too quiet, too careful, too personal, like someone was rehearsing violence.
And 40 years later, we're still asking the same question. Who walked into Cabin 28 that night, and why did they never get caught?
And we're also going to explore how this case may have rippled through horror pop culture, particularly a title from 2008 called The Strangers.
A movie that made an entire generation triple check their locks and say, we don't need to get a cabin getaway this year.
Yeah, or ever. I think this is one of those stories that creeps every woman out, being home alone. I know when I finally moved into a house from an apartment, I realized I didn't have the second set of, doors to protect me, and someone can just walk in.
Yeah, I mean, I think The Strangers does a fantastic job of sort of blowing the lid on the illusion of safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not safe. I think that's also why it helps amplify the Keddie case and other similar cases, right? It's a haunting parallel between both stories, and both have you questioning: was it random or is it ritual? Was it premeditated? Ugh.
Yeah. And if you think we're exaggerating, you haven't seen how many people still visit the ruins of Cabin 28 like it's a tourist attraction. There's TripAdvisor reviews. People are wild.
4 stars.
That's wild.
4 stars would get possessed again.
Yeah. Not into it. I think we'll get into that later.
So tonight we're breaking down the crime, the investigation, and how it might have quietly inspired one of the most effective modern horror films ever made.
A true story meets a fake story, and somehow the fake one feels safer.
Yeah, as always, if you're new here, welcome. The Fear Archive isn't about sensationalizing violence. It's about understanding how horror seeps out from the real world and into the stories that we tell to survive.
And maybe cracking a few jokes along the way so we don't lose our minds. Who's there?
Is Tamara home? All right, so let's start with the place itself, Keddie, California. Picture a dot on a map in Plumas County, tucked deep in the Sierra Nevadas. 1981, it was a dying logging town in Northern California. Northern California. What is California? Northern California.
Cauliflower.
Population. Cauliflower. Northern California, population barely 60. A handful of cabins, mostly rentals for seasonal workers, spread along a dirt road. No streetlights, no cell phones, just the mountains, a few neighbors, and a whole lot of quiet.
The kind of quiet that's comforting in the daytime and absolutely terrifying at night.
Exactly. Which brings us to Cabin 28. It was a modest, single-story structure, wood paneling, small front porch, living room right off the front door.
Mm-hmm.
In 1981, it was home to Sue Sharp, a 36-year-old single mother who'd recently moved from Connecticut to start over with her 5 kids.
And when we're referring to Cabin 28, I believe it was a property with 30 cabins?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when you hear Cabin 28, that's what we're referring to.
It was in like a development of cabins.
Yes. She had left an abusive marriage, packed up her family, and was trying to build a new life in rural California. She was renting Cabin 28 from friends. It wasn't glamorous, but it was safe. Or so she thought.
On the night of April 11th, 1981, 3 of Sue's kids, John, 15, Sheila, 14, and Tina, 12, were at home. 2 younger boys, Rick and Greg, were having a sleepover in the same house, along with their friend Justin Smart, the neighbor's son. John's friend, Dana Wingate, was also there that night, reportedly crashing after an evening out.
And sometime between 10 p.m. and dawn, someone entered the cabin. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows. It's believed Sue might have let the killers in, or they were familiar enough to just walk through the unlocked door without any hesitation.
When Sheila, the oldest daughter, came home the next morning, she found chaos. Something out of a nightmare. The living room was a scene straight out of hell. Her brother John, her mother Sue, and Dana Wingate, they were dead. All 3 had been tied with medical tape and electrical cords. They'd been bludgeoned and stabbed repeatedly. One knife was bent nearly 30 degrees from the force. Another was still lodged in Sue's chest.
And then there was Tina. She was just gone. No trace of her in the house, no sign of struggle in her room, just vanished.
Somehow, the 3 boys, Rick, Greg, and Justin, had slept through the attack in the back bedroom. They were found alive and unharmed, which is eerie.
And it led to decades of speculation about what they might have seen or heard. One of them, Justin, gave conflicting statements over the years. First saying he dreamed about the murders, then later describing 2 men in the house.
His descriptions became the foundation for police sketches. 2 men, one with a mustache and long hair, and the other clean cut. But nothing solid ever came from it.
And the investigation? A total mess. Evidence went missing. Crime scene photos weren't developed properly. The cabin wasn't even sealed off right away. It's one of those small town cases where protocol just collapsed under shock and inexperience.
By 1984, investigators had a few suspects, namely Martin Smart, Justin's stepfather, and his friend John Bobette. Smart was an Air Force veteran, volatile and known to have issues with Sue. Bobette was an ex-con with mob connections who'd recently moved into the area. Both lived just 2 cabins away from the Sharps.
And here's where it gets messy. Martin Smart allegedly told a therapist that he'd kill Sue Sharp and his daughter because Sue had encouraged his wife to leave him. The statement somehow wasn't followed up on for years, but I mean...
Yeah, not until much later. So decades, actually, when a copy of that therapist's note surfaced. Martin Smart and Bo Budebe were both dead by that point. Budebe, he passed in 1988. Smart, 2000.
In 1984, 3 years after the murders, Tina's remains were found miles away in the woods near Camp 18. Her skull was discovered by a bottle collector, along with parts of her clothing. It's confirmed what everyone feared, but still didn't bring them closer to any answers.
No murder weapon was ever officially linked to the suspects. No fingerprints or DNA led anywhere. For a while, it looked like the case would fade into unsolved legend territory.
But in 2016, the Plumas County Sheriff's Office reopened the case. They recovered a hammer in a local pond that matched what one believed to be from the missing scene. DNA testing was conducted on evidence from the cabin, though the results haven't been publicly confirmed.
And as recently as a few years ago, the current sheriff, Greg Hagwood, Greg said that he's confident the case can be solved and that the original investigators, quote, knew who did it. His words, not mine.
The running theory now? Martin and Bo were involved, maybe with a third accomplice, that it was personal, revenge, anger, jealousy, and not so random.
Which makes the story even darker. Because if it was personal, it wasn't a monster in the woods. It was someone the Sharps already knew, someone they probably trusted.
And that brings us back to The Strangers, a film that takes the idea of a random home invasion and makes it exponential. But what if it's not random at all? What if because you were home isn't the real reason? Is it the excuse?
Yeah, that's the connective tissue between the real and the fictional. The Keddie murders and The Strangers both force us to confront the same horror, right? Violence doesn't always come from nowhere. Sometimes it knocks on the door and waits for you to open it.
Who is it?
Is Tamara home? All right, so Keddie's a ghost town now. Cabin 28 was demolished in 2004. People still visit the site, as Amanda referenced earlier. They call them dark tourists, right? True crime tourists, paranormal investigators. They're curious. Every time they do, they say the same thing. Feels heavy, like something was left behind.
Which it was. Evidence, memory, trauma, a whole family story just stopped.
So 40 plus years later, still no justice, no conviction, just theories and the echo of a place that reminds us how fragile safe really is.
And that's why it still matters, because as much as people want to think of Keddie as some old cold case, it really is just a warning, a real life version of what The Strangers tried to tell us.
Yeah, evil doesn't need a motive, it just needs an unlocked door. This case is like this is one of those like nightmare fuel ones for me. Like I always remember this disturbing me. And I remember the Keddie murders, aka, the Cabin 28 murders from like the early days of YouTube. Like this was early YouTube sleuthing. Like videos about Keddie.
Of course, because it was a cold case. No one was ever convicted. People were really interested in figuring it out. I think cases like this is what I'm scared of, right? This is the scary. I think, in our Endgame episode, we talked about Psycho, and I think this kind of ties into that of being vulnerable in your home. It's a place where you're supposed to feel safe and not thinking, someone could just walk right through that door.
And just like stab you so ferociously with a knife that they bend the fucking knife.
Yeah.
The rage.
That piece of it really freaked me out, which made me think, what were they? Were they just grabbing a random knife from the kitchen? Was it one that they brought with them? Because I mean, if you're going to stab someone with intent, would you bring something? I don't know. Like, do you think that this was what everyone thinks it is now?
I don't think
intentional, planned.
Yes, yeah, I do think personally. I think that the Keddie murders were intentional. I think that this was like someone settling some type of score, in their mind, settling a score. I do not condone what happened. It's horrible. It's tragic. It's disgusting. But I think that the people who perpetrated these murders, there was some level of rage that, I mean, geez, I've never been stabbed and I've never stabbed someone, but I have heard that stabbing is the hardest thing to do. Like, it's not like it looks in the movies. Like, it takes force and effort. So could you imagine stabbing someone so hard that you break the knife? That is just horrific. Like, what kind of rage? So it also got me thinking, like, were the assailants, were they on something? Were they on meth? Was this like a drug-fueled kind of frenzy? And I know there's been like some speculation over that, like this was a drug deal gone wrong. I have heard that. That's one of the theories that's out there. This was a drug deal gone wrong.
In what way? Who was dealing the drugs?
I don't know. I'm just like, then,
that's
and
interesting.
I know. Drop your shade in the comments because I really don't have. This is one of the stories. There's like not a lot. I mean, there is a lot, but there's not enough cohesive info for this case because this is an ongoing investigation. They are actively still taking tips on this case.
Mm-hmm. This one was, it was, another one with children. And it's just, kind of unsettling thinking that it was a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old and the mother. And then, obviously we find out later, and a 12-year-old daughter, Tina. But the thing that really sticks with me is that the 3 boys slept through the whole thing. What kind of cabin was this?
I don't know. I mean,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I know.
Like, are we talking like a Lincoln Logs kind of cabin?
No, I think it's just like a timeshare type place. I don't know if any of our listeners have ever stayed in like Yosemite and like the village in Yosemite. I think this was just like it's nothing special. I mean, the walls weren't steel, I don't know. I don't understand what happened, how you could sleep through a murder unless they were like drugged.
I'm looking at the house. It wasn't like a big house. It is like a house you would stay in going to like Yosemite or something.
Yeah. Now, this was so we had the Keddie murders. Northern California has its share of really horrific true crime. I mean, we will probably cover this case on a later episode, but you have the murder cabin of Leonard Lake and Charles Ng. The M Lady murders, and that wasn't too far from where Keddie was.
Mm-hmm.
So I often wonder, I'm like, is there a connection between Leonard Lake and Charles Ng and the murders at Keddie? But maybe we save that for a future episode.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to go into on that.
I want to go back to the kids that survived. And a theory that we can call it a conspiracy theory because, that I have going on in my head is one of the boys that was unharmed was one of the suspects' kids. Do you think he was keeping the other boys quiet and told them, like, don't say anything? Just something to that tune, because when someone, you have to think, like, if someone's getting stabbed where the knife is bent like that, one, they always say stabbing is personal. You are so up close to someone. I mean, it makes sense. You're physically impaling someone. I don't know. Do you think my theory could be something there? Do I have something?
You might. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I always feel like my default response is I don't know. I mean, I don't think I don't think anything is off the table with these theories and these speculations around this. Like, I don't think anything is off the table because, like, I mean, if they knew, this case would have been solved, 40 plus years ago, like, I think
yeah, I mean, for the evidence to be poorly handled and the crime scene wasn't even, roped off. It just seems like a perfect storm of not being able to solve this.
Right. I mean, is it unsolvable simply because we've made it unsolvable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've just tampered and messed with things so much that it's just like there's nothing usable that we could pull from this crime scene,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Keddie is truly nightmare fuel, though, like I mean, we'll get into the similarities to the strangers and the abject differences, because there are differences, right?
Yeah.
And Bertino also has never outright really referenced Keddie. There are other things that Bertino has referenced, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. But I don't know. You think it's time we switch gears and actually kind of like pull our audience into the world of the strangers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's a little more modern, a little more cinematic. Same flavor of dread, though.
We're talking about The Strangers, Bryan Bertino's 2008 home invasion horror that pretty much ruined renting Airbnbs for an entire generation.
Yeah, and I mean in the 2008, because I know there also is the remake trilogy that is out, but
There's
in
so
that,
many.
yeah, no, in the original Strangers, they're actually staying at her his parents' house, I think, like it's parents' cabin or whatever it is. Um, so yeah. What's wild about The Strangers, though, is that it's one of those like lightning in a bottle first films. So Bryan Bertino, and I do have a personal connection to Bryan Bertino. Like we don't know each other, but we both have a good friend that we share. Bryan was this Texas dude who started out working. He was an electrician on film sets, literally like wiring lights and fixing plugs and stuff. Before he decided, you know what, I'm just going to write a horror classic instead. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually pulling it off from wiring cables to wrecking nerves.
Yeah. Yeah, being an electrician is scary in general. This dude like got nerves of steel. He's a gifted writer. Anyway, I'm gonna stop my fanboying moment and I'm just gonna get into this. So Bryan writes this small claustrophobic script, inspired by a few real life things. Not really Keddie though. So he was inspired by like the Manson family murders. So the Sharon Tate killings, but also a much more personal anecdote of the story that his parents told him about strangers knocking on doors in their neighborhood and asking for people who didn't live there. So, it turns out if someone answered, they just moved on. If they didn't, that house got robbed later that night. So it's kind of like like I'm sussing it out. Like, can I rob this house? Is anyone there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
which is like already terrifying. But yeah, then he mixed in the emotional gut punch of a breakup story. You have Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman, this couple whose relationship is basically circling down the drain. And then bam, masked intruders show up just to twist the knife.
And that's what makes it work. It's not about survival at first. It's about emotional decay. The violence almost feels like a metaphor until it's not.
What's wild is The Strangers almost wasn't this stripped down indie at all. At one point, it was being floated as a big studio project with Mark Romanek and Justin Lin both in the mix to direct. Lin of Fast and Furious fame and Romanek, who gave us 1 Hour Photo and basically every Madonna video in the 90s. Both have visions of a slick, high-budget horror film, but when it fell through, Bertino stuck to his guns and made it his way. Small, intimate, and mean as hell.
Yeah, and it ended up being the sleeper hit. So it was shot for around $9 million, made over $80 million worldwide. And
they ate on that.
And instantly became one of those word-of-mouth horror events. It felt too real, too quiet, like it could happen, because technically it did.
Yeah, and you can see the fingerprints of real crime all over it. The Keddie Cabin murders, Manson, even a little bit of the 1946 Texarkana Moonlight murders. It's like a patchwork of our collective fear of random violence.
Yeah, and because Hollywood can't resist a hit, we also got more movies. We got The Strangers, Pray at Night, 10 years later. Tonally, it's almost a different animal, more neon, more 80s slasher energy, but, that same hopeless, arbitrary terror. Damian Maphey, he plays the man in the mask in Pray at Night, is also a fellow Long Islander, and I could vouch for him. He's a hell of a dude. Hi, Damian. But we're not done yet, though. They actually did greenlight a remake trilogy. Directed by Rennie Harlan of Die Hard 2 fame. It's meant to retell and expand Bertino's original story. It's wild, honestly. This small little indie horror film that started as a script from a former electrician now is a full-blown cinematic universe. So go figure.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Funny enough, fun fact, I actually got to pitch a Stranger sequel to Vertigo back in 2016. I didn't get it. obviously. But man, that story space is endless. You could put those mass psychos anywhere and it works. Cabin, motel, cul-de-sac, it's all the same fear. You're safe until someone decides you're not. So mine, which will never get made, it was set in a halfway house during a blizzard. So, that was mine.
That's the secret, right? It's not supernatural. It's not an ancient evil. It's just people who knock and don't care who answers. It's random violence. And in the first one, you never see who they are. You see their masks off. You never see their face. And they just drive away.
Mm-hmm. That's fucking horrifying. And I feel like, and Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I feel like this movie like kicked off a whole trend of like home invasion horror. Remember that? Like this is
100%.
2008. Like there was this whole big thing. They even like remade. They did like that shot for shot remake of Funny Games, the Michael Haneke film. Like they had that there was one I think called Borgman. There were like a whole bunch of like these really creepy home invasion movies that personally I always thought that worked. I always thought they were really terrifying. I never had any issues with them. They always scared me.
I can't recall, but was Last House on the Left supposed to be
did the
random?
remake.
Was that was supposed to be random too, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, they just they buy weed off these people who are just happen to be escaped convicts and sex offenders. So.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, and don't follow Junior Stillo for weed because he's going to bring you to his crazy dad who's going to kill you.
Go to the dispensary, obviously.
Yeah.
I think for anyone who hasn't seen the film, we can just run through it really quick. So this couple, they're having some turmoil in their relationship. They were at a wedding. And they go back to this cabin. It feels like they're renting it, right? Am I wrong? It feels like
it's his parents' house.
Oh, that's right.
It's like his parents' vacation house. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. And they're like going to die. The fringes of like their relationship's falling apart.
And so he goes to the store to get something. And
he's going to propose to her.
Yeah, so he's good. He proposed. She's like, I don't know about this, right? She's like, that's the kind of the whole through line on their relationship. And spoiler alert, it gets horrific. They start getting tortured while he's out. Someone keeps knocking on the door and playing mind games with her on the exterior of the house.
Is Tamara home?
Exactly. There's a knock on the door. The porch light is not turning on, and they're a little spooked. She calls him, come home, come home. And yeah, he does come home, and then they both start getting spooked. And then I rewatched this for the pod. Who walks in but Glenn Howerton? Have you watched the movie lately?
I haven't watched it in about a year.
So someone walks in, he is also in a suit, and they're so scared, and they have a shotgun, and they shoot this man in the face.
Oh, that's the friend from the wedding. Yeah,
it's the friend from the wedding, and it's Glenn Howerton from
Who's that again?
Always Sunny. Dennis.
Yes, there we go. Yeah.
Fucking Dennis. I'm like, Dennis, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be at the bar? So anyway, that was a nice little surprise. That was a couple years after It's Always Sunny came out, when this film came out. But so they shoot him, and then obviously that adds to their dread.
You just fucking murdered someone.
Yeah, their friend too, nonetheless.
And you're also now still being harassed by these people who want to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the movie devolves into complete chaos. There's a lot of cat and mouse stuff that happens. And then they're ultimately tied up, tortured, and stabbed. And you think Liv Tyler is stabbed to death, but spoiler alert, she ain't dead.
She like literally comes back to life and scares these
she
children.
could be. It could be like a death spasm, but I mean,
yeah.
The original. I haven't seen this. I only saw the sequel once, but I remember Bertino wrote the sequel. It was originally called The Strangers Part 2. And it was supposed to open, like the opening scene was originally Liv Tyler's character living with this horrific PTSD. She's living with her parents now, and she's haunted by it. And the opening scene was the strangers knock on her door and kill her whole family and her. And then it cuts to the story we got set in the trailer park. I think that was cut from, I don't think Liv Tyler ended up in The Strangers Prey at Night. The script was originally much better. Bertino wrote something that was so dark and so bleak that, yeah, I'm not surprised it wasn't filmed. It was also supposed to come out within like a year of The Strangers being released. Like they were fast tracking it, and it didn't come out, I think, until like 2018. Still not a bad movie, just completely different. But yeah, sorry, digressing so much here.
It's okay. So I think like let's take a moment to now let's look at the crime from the Keddie case and compare it to the film. I think one thing from the film that is so eerie and creepy was, I believe it was Liv Tyler that goes, why us? And what did they say, Mike?
Because you were home.
It gives me chills every time. It's so creepy.
Yeah, it's really different when you think of Keddie, you know?
Yeah. I think specifically because kind of what you were talking about earlier, our parents always tell us, like, you know, have the light on, make it look like someone's home because you don't want to get robbed. But no one's ever thinking, be quiet, be still, so you don't get murdered.
Right. Like, I mean, Amanda, like, I don't know, just like to dissect this, like the psychology of the killers and the strangers. I mean, were they just like, do you think they were just thrill killing? I mean, we never get a motive, but like, were they just like, we're just going to go see if we can kill people?
I mean, for me, that's what it feels like, right? There's no motive. I think they just did it to do it. Maybe it's practice to perfect their craft. I mean, I'm not really sure. It kind of, you know, it kind of reminds me of House of a Thousand Corpse, that kind of crew.
Oh, the House of a Thousand Corpses, like the Firefly family, like Devil's Rejects kind of stuff.
Devil's Rejects. There we go. Yeah, it reminds me of that crew, right? Where it's just like unnecessary violence. They just enjoy it.
You know what I get, like with this movie, I get a lot of, I mean, then it's funny because the movie's called The Strangers, right? I think of Stranger Danger. I think of like the Satanic Panic, you know, like I think that this is like one of those Satanic Panic stories come to life, you know, like there are people who are just like driving around neighborhoods looking for houses where they can come in and just kill everybody, right? Yeah, there's definitely a level of like satanic panic paranoia. So satanic panic paranoia in The Strangers that I think is amazing and very, very, very effective.
Yeah. The violence in both is quiet, methodical, and personal. What's more disturbing, the physical brutality or the emotional control behind it?
I think both, you know, like,
yeah,
you know, they definitely, they have these characters right where they want them. Right. And the characters do have those brief windows of time when they can escape it. And they're given the, you know, they're given the opportunity to escape somewhat. And they fuck it up.
Yeah.
You know, like by shooting Glenn Howard in that part. Like you have a shotgun or a rifle. I'm not a gun person.
I think it was a shotgun. Yeah.
Right. Like you could have used that. You could have used that on the killer. Yeah. Yeah. But you could have used that on the Man in the Mask or the pinup doll or baby doll or whatever her name is, right? Like the three knife wielding masked people trying to kill you. But you don't. Now you're fucked. And they get him. I mean, they tie him up, they torture him, they stab him, and you know.
Yeah.
Spoiler. Sorry.
You know. the interesting thing that I was thinking about with this is in the real cases how the daughter found them, and then in the film it was two boys who seemed like they were doing some sort of religious door-to-door like religious soliciting, and the walkthrough, I'm gonna give you a guess. What does the walkthrough of the crime scene remind you of? What movie? We talked about
walkthrough
it. We did an episode on it.
The walkthrough of the crime scene with the boys, the religious missionaries.
It felt like, ready? X. It felt like X.
When walking
through, right? It really just gave that same energy where there was like the religion of like the sermon in the background, and you see their pamphlets of the boys, and just the way they were like stepping through. It felt similar to the police officer in that film, in X. But anyway, that was just like connection that I saw.
Now The Strangers, so it has been like a year since I've seen it, but like doesn't The Strangers actually open with the aftermath?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's the same bookend that X does, which is, fun to think about. But so going back to the kids though, I it's really, I don't know, it was an interesting way to put it, of like this horrific crime, and then you have these two kids who are, holy children almost, right? And finding just this horrific violence. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Yeah.
I know it's you're making me think of, I'm thinking of this now, and it's like, it's really profound. I've never thought of this before you brought this up, but like, do they completely question their faith as a result of being exposed to this ultra violence, right? Like this disturbing shit. And then of course Liv Tyler comes back from the dead essentially and just like, I'm not dead.
Like literally I knew it was coming, and it still scared me when I watched it again this week just to refresh it for myself.
Bertino, I have to say, listen, Bryan, I've never met you. We have a mutual friend. No, we do. We have a mutual friend. I revere you as a writer. I think you are one of the most incredible screenwriters out there. His sequel was so horrific. What ended up getting made was like it was like completely watered down version of his original take. So mean-spirited and creepy. The opening scene of the original, she's paralyzed. She is like, her body is destroyed because of what they did with her, and like she would rather have died that night. And the movie opens up with her in like a wheelchair. It's like really horrific. The original Strangers too, like what they were originally planning. Like, he knows grim really well. Anyway, sorry, getting too fanboy here.
No, all good.
I love your writing. He has a good movie out, by the way, Vicious. It's on Paramount Plus. Check it out.
We didn't get paid for that. What makes the lack of closure in both stories so haunting? Do you think it's the unanswered questions or the idea that it could still happen again?
Both.
You say both every time, Mike.
No, but I'm gonna give you both. So, the unanswered questions, we never know why they're doing what they're doing, and we don't know. Okay, so I think it's that, not knowing their motive
in both stories, though. So let's look at the crime too.
So they're gonna do it again. The Keddie thing, like why Keddie scares me, because that person has the capacity for that level of violence. And to be fair, whoever did the Keddie murders, probably that wasn't their first rodeo, right? Like you can't just do that. I don't think so. I mean, I don't think that could be your first time, right? They got away with it too. Right? They never got caught. Not that they got away with it. Not like it's like, oh, I'm glad they got away with it. Not. They're horrible. They deserve to be in prison or dead.
Okay, well,
right?
let me pose this question. Do you think Keddie could have been random, or do you think it was motivated by anger, as some people think? Because when you think about it, why would, if it was just if they just had beef with the mother, why would they harm the children?
I don't know what they ultimately had beef with, but I do not think that Keddie was random. I don't ascribe to that theory that it was just the strangers, someone knocking at the door for Keddie. No, I think that Keddie was something so, what do they call it? Crime of passion, right? Like where there's so much rage, right? There was
just
so much
like seeing red
in
the moment.
There was so much rage behind what happened at that cabin, cabin 28 in Keddie. I don't think that was random. I think that was very premeditated. I don't think it was like drifters. I don't think it was someone who even knew them for a tiny window. I think that was very targeted and very premeditated.
All right. Well, if The Strangers is like a cinematic echo of Keddie and not like, frame for frame, let's call it, then like, what does that say about how we process real violence? Do we turn it into stories so we can control it?
Maybe we turn it into stories so we can understand it so we could sleep at night.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Just control the narrative and process. Yeah.
I think it's easier for us to, like, our brains naturally try to find patterns, right? So, like, maybe if we could try to, even if the narrative that we're creating in our brains doesn't necessarily line up with how it actually happened, when we create it just so we could sleep, maybe it's just sort of like a defense mechanism.
And I think that I think you're right, because I think that's what makes The Strangers so terrifying, right? Because the only motivation is because you're home.
Right.
And that's something that's not from, when we're thinking about like serial killers, that's not like a way to really like nail down who done it, right? You can look at how they were killed and with what weapon, and you could do those things, but for true motive, that I think that really drives the force when law enforcement and detectives are trying to figure out who actually did do it.
Yeah, 100%. And, is there a greater conspiracy behind what happened in Plumas County at the, the cabin 28? Like, I don't know. We're not necessarily going to start throwing out conspiracy theories, but anyone out there looking to do their own investigation into this, there are certainly conspiracy theories related to the deaths at cabin 28.
Yeah.
There's theory. Let's not call them conspiracy theories. Let's just call them theories. There's definitely theories. I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to know. Although, even though they actually recently said that they are close to potentially having an answer to what happened, authorities are always saying they're very close to coming to bringing this case to a close. I don't know. I'm very skeptical that we'll ever get a complete resolution to cabin 28.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate, but I hope the families of the victims do get the closure that they need.
Absolutely.
Today, the murders at Cabin 28 and the abduction and death of 12-year-old Tina Sharp remain an open and active investigation. The Plumas County Sheriff's Office continues to process new evidence, evaluate leads, and review tips from the public. Authorities have stated that they believe individuals with information are still alive and that this case can be solved.
If you have any information regarding the Keddie murders, please contact Detective Sergeant Steve P. at the Plumas County Sheriff's Office at 530-283-6360 or call the main Sheriff's Office line at 530-283-6300. You can also submit anonymous information through the NorCal Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS.
After more than 40 years, even the smallest detail can matter.
So what did we learn tonight? Don't vacation in remote mountain towns. Don't open the door after midnight. And definitely don't answer when someone knocks and asks for a name you don't recognize.
And if you do, at least make sure your Wi-Fi is good enough to call for help or bring a satellite phone with you.
In all seriousness, though, the Keddie case reminds us how fragile safety really is. It's not about bad luck. It's about how thin the line is between routine and tragedy.
And The Strangers turn that idea into art. It's a mirror. One that says, look, this is what it feels like when the world stops making sense.
And somehow we keep looking. It's the whole point of the Fear Archive. To stare into the parts of history and horror that still have bite marks.
Because if we don't, they just keep knocking.
So lock your doors.
Draw your curtains.
And remember, you were
home.
Let's do it again. Wait.
Say, and remember again.
And remember,
you
were home. Wait, hold on.
Let's do like a 1, 2.
Wayne's World, yeah.
1, 2 beat, and then say it. Okay.
Right.
So we'll go draw your curtains. 1, 2, and remember. Or no, and remember. 1, 2. You were home. Okay.
You're gonna start it.
Say and remember.
And remember, you were home.
Boom.
Oh fuck! All right.
I said the wrong words. Wait,
It's
we're
okay.
gonna do it. Or start with lock your doors.
So lock your doors.
Draw your curtains.
And remember, you were home. Ah, fuck!
I don't know how are you saying it.
You're home.
You were home.
What happens if like somebody just said, "Yeah, Tamara's home," and they're like, "It's me, Tamara."
I just broke a nail.
I just broke Bryan Bertino's brain with that.
Okay.
No movie.
How are you
just
saying you were home? How are you going to say it?
You were home.
You were home. Okay.
You were home.
E.T. fell home. Okay. Ready? Okay.
Imagine they all had E.T. masks on. That would be terrifying. They had that mask. That mask was just as scary as
dying E.T. Okay.
All right. So lock your doors.
Draw your curtains.
And remember, you were home.
All right, we're going to get it. Let's practice. Ready? You were home. Ready?
You were home.
You were home. You were home. Right? Like that? You were
home. So lock your doors.
Draw your curtains.
And remember, you were home.
Okay.
The best we're going to do.
I think, let me just say you were home. And okay, let's just do it again. Okay.
All right. So lock your doors.
Draw your curtains.
And remember,
you
were home.
We'll see you next time in the Fear Archive. As of November 2nd, you can stream The Strangers on Netflix. We'll see you the next time. This is the Fear Archive.
You've been listening to the Fear Archive, hosted by Amanda Kagawada and Michael Ryan Aesop, produced by Cassie Josephove, with original music by Umberto. This podcast is a production of Violet Hour Media.